Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I'm Mike Drotis, Bible teacher and preacher, and you've tuned into my YouTube channel, Solving the Prophetic Puzzle. Today I'm going to continue to talk about the Millennial Kingdom. This is part 5 of an end-time study of the Lord's return, Jesus setting up his Millennial Kingdom, and the Battle of Armageddon. Let's pick up where we left off last time. There is a day that will come in the future that will be like no other day that ever existed or that will ever exist afterwards. It is called the Day of the Lord. It's the last day of the end of the age, the day before the Millennial Kingdom begins. We're drawing closer and closer to this every day, and Bible prophecy is being fulfilled right before our eyes. But that day is still off into the future right now. Zechariah talks about it in Zechariah chapter 14, verse 1. He calls it the day of the Lord. Behold, the day of the Lord is coming, and your spoil will be divided in your midst. Zechariah then goes on to describe this great battle that's going to happen on this day. This battle of Armageddon, this day of the Lord. Zechariah 14:6 says, "It shall come to pass in that day." Now he's describing the day to us. It shall come to pass in that day that there will be no light. The lights will be diminished. Joel chapter 2. Joel also mentions the day of the Lord. Joel chapter 2 verse 1. Blow the trumpet in Zion, sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. It is at hand. Now he's going to describe the day of the Lord. A day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, like the morning clouds spread over the mountains. A day like no other day. Isaiah chapter 13, verse 6. Isaiah describes it as well. Wait, for the day of the Lord is at hand. Verse 10. For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The sun will be darkened in its going forth, and the moon will not cause its light to shine. All three of these prophets describe this very unique day. It will be a day that won't be fully light, and it will not be totally dark. It will be a gloomy day. The stars and the moon and the constellations will not be giving any light. The lights will be diminished. Zechariah 4:7 says, "It shall be one day, which is only known to the Lord, neither day nor night, but at evening time it shall happen that it will be light." This is a very unique day that is yet to ever come or will ever be afterwards. It's called the Day of the Lord. This day is the day that Jesus Christ returns and fights at the great battle of Armageddon. We remember that. We've studied about the battle of Armageddon in Revelation chapter 19. Let's look at that. Revelation chapter 19. John the Apostle is describing these end-time events where he's going through the whole sequence of the final 7 years of period of humanity upon this earth, where Bible prophecy is being fulfilled, where the rapture occurs, where the trumpet judgments occur, where the bowl judgments occur, and then the battle of Armageddon. He's describing this great battle in Revelation chapter 19, verses 15 through 16. He talks about the Lord. Well, you got to read verse 14 because that has us in it. "And the armies in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses." That's us. We are returning back with the Lord on this great day, this day of the Lord. "Now out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should strike the nations, and he himself will rule them with a rod of iron. He himself treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty God. And he has on his robe and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords." John is describing that Jesus is coming back and how he is going to fight at this great battle of Armageddon. How he out of his mouth comes a sharp sword, a great sword. Revelation 19, verse 15, describes the result of this great battle. And I saw the beast, the kings of the earth, and their armies gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. And the beast was captured, with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These two were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone, and the rest were killed with the sword which proceeded from the mouth of him who sat on the horse, and all the birds were filled with the flesh. The birds of the air ate the flesh of this carnage. Zechariah described what exactly happens to this great army that is demonically inspired by Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet as they amass a great army on the battle of Armageddon. And Zechariah describes that when Jesus comes back, that as he fights them, it appears as if an atomic explosion occurred. It says their face melts, their eye sockets melt in their eyes, and they wither away just like an atomic explosion would occur. But it's not with bombs that Jesus comes back to fight this. It's with the word of God that comes out of his mouth. And this army is obliterated in a matter of seconds. And John describes that blood will be up to a horse's bridle in the valley of Megiddo. This great army will be totally decimated. Satan then is removed and put into a bottomless pit. The false prophet and the Antichrist are cast into the lake of fire. And then the millennial kingdom begins. The millennial kingdom begins the next day. And guess what? There will be survivors. I know that's hard to explain because oftentimes we don't think about that. We don't think about the end of the age necessarily as there will actually be survivors going into the millennial kingdom. But there would have to be. Who exactly would Jesus be ruling and reigning over if there were no survivors? There will literally be people that will make it through the entire 7-year tribulation period, that will make it to the very end. Not many, but there will be survivors. And these survivors, some of them, but not all of them, will enter into the new kingdom, this new time period, this 1,000-year kingdom that God is setting up. Zechariah 14, verse 16, tells us exactly what I was just saying. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which came up against Jerusalem, that at the battle of Armageddon, all the nations, or many nations, will come up against Jerusalem with the intent of exterminating the Jewish nation, exterminating the Jewish people, and wiping out Jerusalem once and for all. It is at that point that Jesus returns, riding on a white horse. The king is coming, riding on a white horse, and he obliterates that army. But yet, in the world there will be survivors. Zechariah said, and it shall come to pass that everyone who is left, not all the survivors, though, will get to enter into the millennial kingdom, the 1,000-year kingdom that is ruled and reigned by Jesus Christ. Matthew 13, that great parable that so many people like to talk about, the parable of the wheat and the tares, describes exactly how this is all going to be accomplished. At the end of the age, Jesus says the angels will go forward and they will take the wicked that is left, the wicked survivors. This parable does not make sense unless you realize that the rapture occurred years before this. Oftentimes people get confused and they say, see, there is no need for a rapture. God does everything at the end of the age, on the last day. He gets rid of all the bad people and wicked people and throws them into hell. And then those that are left get to go into the kingdom. No, you're neglecting the rapture of the church that happened a few years before this event. At the end of the age, the day of the Lord, the end of the age, the battle of Armageddon, it's all the same day. At this day, after the battle is over, angels will go forward and they will take people who are wicked. They will take those who who cannot enter into the kingdom. Of course, you might be saying, well, who might that be? Well, of course, it would be every individual left who has the mark of the beast. They cannot go into the millennial kingdom. We know from Revelation chapter 14 that all who have the mark of the beast will be cast into hell. There will be many demon-possessed individuals during this 7-year tribulation period. We read in the Bible where hordes of demons are released from hell for the last days, and they will infect, they will overtake, they will invade people, and they will live inside of people. These people will be cast into hell, along with the demon that's in them. The blasphemers. We read in Revelation that there will be many people who will blaspheme Jesus. They hate Jesus. They may not have the mark of the beast, but they hate him. They will be removed and cast into the lake of fire. Then those who are left, who would be left? The Jews, the Jewish people, those who did not receive the mark of the beast, who lived. There won't be a lot, but those who lived through the entire 7 years who did not have the mark of the beast, and the 144,000. I have to assume that they're still around. They'll go into this millennial kingdom that lasts for 1,000 years. What will this kingdom be like? Let's continue to read Zechariah 16. Zechariah 14, verse 16. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King of the Lord of hosts and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. During this 1,000-year kingdom that is ruled and reigned by Jesus and only by Jesus. He's the King of the world. He's the King of the earth. He is ruling and reigning. There are no presidents. There are no mayors. There are no governors. There's just Jesus ruling and reigning, and we are helping him, of course, but Jesus is the supreme leader of the earth. And every year, all the nations are required to go to Jerusalem, to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Well, what if I don't want to? You are going to. You better. Those people who are on the earth during the millennial kingdom better do this. Because if they don't, look at what verse 17 says. And it shall be that whichever of the families of the earth who do not come up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, on them there will be no rain. Families will be required to go and worship the King. Nations will have to send delegations to go and worship the King at the Feast of Tabernacles. And if they don't, there will be no rain on that country or on that land. This shall be the punishment of Egypt. Wait, let me read verse 18. If the family of Egypt will not come up and enter it in, then they shall have no rain. He's giving an example. If the family of Egypt, if they don't come up and enter in, they shall have no rain. They shall receive the plague with which the Lord strikes the nations who do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. It's going to be a totally different time period of being ruled and reigned by one supreme leader, Jesus Christ. If you don't obey, if you don't go and worship the Lord, then you will receive the plague with which the Lord strikes the nations who do not come to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations who do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. God is serious. Jesus is serious during this time. You will be required, those survivors will be required to worship the King. And if they don't, no rain. Jesus then will have complete control over the weather. Isn't that interesting? Men have been trying to control the weather for a long time. Jesus will have complete control over the weather during this 1,000-year kingdom. What else is it going to be like? Jerusalem will be very, very significant. Have you ever noticed how people are always trying to wipe out Israel, wipe out Jerusalem, and wipe out the Jewish people? Jerusalem will be very important during this time, this 1,000-year reign. And in Zechariah chapter 8, we read that actually Jerusalem will be the capital of the world where Jesus is ruling and reigning from. Zechariah chapter 8, verse 3. Thus says the Lord, I will return to Zion and dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall be called the city of truth, the mountain of the Lord of hosts, the holy mountain. That's where Jesus is going to rule and reign. That's where all eyes will be focused on what's coming out of Jerusalem. Not Washington, D.C., not Moscow, not Ukraine, not China, not Taiwan. None of those nations are going to be at an elevated level during this kingdom. It will be the nation of Israel. It will be Jerusalem, where Jesus Christ is, ruling and reigning. There is so much more that we can talk about. Oh my gosh. There is so much more that we can discuss about this millennial kingdom. We haven't even talked about the people and the plants and the animals. We haven't talked about other things that will be happening during the millennial kingdom. We're going to. It just takes time to cover all these things. And of course, we have to answer the question, what about us? What about the believers? We return with Jesus on the day of the Lord. We return with him. We rule and reign with him during his kingdom on the earth for 1,000 years. How? What gives us the right to think that we can rule and reign with Jesus? What gives any believer, what gives the body of Christ the right to think that? It all goes back to the rapture. It all goes back to the new birth, where you must be born again, and the day of the rapture comes, and the believers, the body of Christ, the church is taken out of here. We're evacuated before the day of the Lord, before the trumpet judgments, before the bowl judgments, before the final 3.5 years of the tribulation period. Before all that, we are taken out of here. And we are with the Lord forever after that. We are evacuated. We are thus enabled then to come back with the Lord, as we read in Revelation chapter 19, riding on white horses in our resurrected body now. We are in a resurrected body just like Jesus. That's exciting. This is so exciting. All I can say is keep watching these videos. Keep studying with me as we go through these end time events. Keep looking up. The big event is right around the corner. Jesus Christ is coming soon in what we call the rapture, or the catching away, or the harpazo. He will return, and he will come not touching down on the earth like as the day of the Lord, but he will come in the clouds in the atmosphere above the earth. The rapture will take away the saints of God, will take away the church of God, and that is happening soon. He's coming back soon. I'm going to keep saying that. He's coming back soon. Keep looking up. Hey, if you haven't liked or subscribed, please do so. Every week I do 1 or 2 videos about the end times, about Bible prophecy, about dreams, spiritual dreams. And of course, I talk about the rapture. I want to finally conclude this with thank you so much for your prayers. I've received emails from you and messages of how individuals are praying for me and praying for this channel. I want to get this channel all over the world, telling people that Jesus Christ is coming soon and telling people that the rapture is real. And now we're up to 10 people. So I wanted to give a special shout out to these 10 people who I call prayer partners. They're praying for me, and they know that if they need something, they can ask me, and I will pray for them. I'll pray for anybody. But these 10 people have said they're praying for me. I'm only going to say your first name because I don't want to invade your privacy or whatever. But thank you for these people. Christine, thank you. Joe, thank you. Nicole, thank you very much. You are always there. You guys are always there praying for me. Thank you for, formerly was DLC Ministries, now is Daily Bread and Water. I appreciate you. Hello, McFly. Thank you. You're always there praying for me and commenting and encouraging. Daniel, I appreciate you. Michael Bryan, thank you so much for your prayers and your support. Diana, Truth Seeker, thank you that you said, I'll pray for you. I appreciate that. And thank you, Eric I don't want to say the last name, but Eric H. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you're doing. Hey, I said there was 10. I was wrong. There's only 9. But I'm believing for 10. I'm believing for more every time. So thanks a lot for watching. Keep looking up. Jesus Christ is coming soon. God bless you.